Welcome to Mac Geek Gab, episode 927 for Monday, May 9th, 2022. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where we take your questions. Well, I mean, you send them in. We don't, come and get them and take them from you. But we take the questions that you've sent us, and we process through them. We take your cool stuff found and share them. We take your quick tips and share them. We take your questions, and we try to answer them while we share them. The goal being that each of us, you, him, her, them, me, we all each get to learn at least 5 new things. We learn things from you. You learn things from us. We're a big, happy Mac Geek Gab family, and it's a wonderful thing because we each get to learn 5 new things. I love it every time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include BBEdit at barebones.com. Ready for Big Sur. You can have multiple notebooks in locations that you choose. It's awesome. We'll talk more about that in depth in a little bit. And also hunterdouglas.com/MGG, where you can go and learn about their fantastic shades and savings. We'll talk more in depth about those shortly here. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun.
And here in Lee, New Hampshire, is Pilot Pete. Good to be with you, gents.
It's good to have you, Pete. It's good to be here. I agree with that. I love doing this show. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. And I love our community in the Discord server at macgeekgab.com/Discord. It's been fantastic getting to just keep in touch throughout the week, not just when we do the show.
It's nice to have a unified place for all the comments during the show.
And during the live show.
Pre and post. Yeah.
Pre and post, it's all there. Yeah. But even just all week long, there's questions and tips being shared and answered. It's awesome. It's great. Speaking of quick tips, John, you want to start us off with Lee?
Certainly. So Lee says, you know when you open up an app like Text Edit, Numbers, or Preview to quickly manipulate and perhaps copy some data or an image, but you don't want to actually save a new file when done. After pressing Command Q to quit the app, you're presented with a window containing options of delete, cancel, and save. Instead of moving your cursor to click the delete button like an animal, just press Command Delete instead.
I've always done Command D, the first letter of whatever the option is that I want to choose. And I feel like that's done it for me, but I this is one of those muscle memory things. I don't know. But try it out, folks. Yeah, that's a great tip. I love things like this that become automatic.
I've actually tried it since reading that. It works really well. I haven't tried the Command D.
Sure.
Which is where I might have thought to do. But quick personal point of privilege, Lee, I noted, is from Baton Rouge. So hi to Lee and all the Baton Rouge listeners. Some of my old stomping grounds is an LSU alumnus, the only real Tigers in the SEC. That'll make some folks happy, right? So.
Yeah. And it'll make all the rest of them
the
comment.
SEC is not passionate at all about their sports, particularly football. But but in all seriousness, the other thing that he mentions there, if you're a person who does use the trackpad only or the mouse only, I really encourage use some of the keystrokes. You will be amazed at the efficiency that you gain by even a few of them. It's just to watch someone struggle with the mouse. Sometimes you're just like, all you have to do is hit enter.
Yes. But, okay, so I agree with you that the keyboard can be your friend. But now I have, well, first of all, we'll take all of your comments that you have for Pete at feedback at macgeekgab.com. We'll just send those straight to Pete about
feedback at macgeekgab.com. All the hate mail from especially the Auburn folks who think they're Tigers too. But
yeah, there it is. Just twisting the knife, Pete.
At macgeekgab.com.
That's right. However, we're always on the lookout for quick tips, as you know, and generally we have no shortage of them, but we like more, right? More are good. We like the quick tips are a super popular segment, and we're going to get to more. But One way to quick tips are often hard to identify because I never thought of mentioning this, even though I do it, 6 times a day because it's just muscle memory. I don't think about it. One of the ways to identify a quick tip is when someone is looking over your shoulder and says, wait, how did you do that? That's a quick tip, right there. And then the other way to identify a quick tip is the reverse. When you are looking over someone else's shoulder and you find that every fiber of your being has tensed because they're not doing the efficient thing that you know how to do, that's a quick tip. So instead of focus that tension, instead of on that poor person, you just tap it out to your phone, feedback@macgeekgab.com, and send us the little quick tip, and we'll share it on the show. Like Barry has sent in to us. Barry says, just a quick tip. Well, he shares it about a studio display, which is a fair way to do this. He says, if you have your studio display hooked to your Mac, remember that your Mac with Monterey will show up on the list of AirPlay speakers. And you can send your music and podcasts straight to your studio display or any other speakers that are connected to your Mac. This is not limited to the studio display, but of course it sounds better with the studio display because that's how the studio display works. But yeah, your Mac is an AirPlay destination, and it's a great way to just leverage all of that, especially if you've got a Mac hooked up to some decent speakers, or you just want to listen out loud. You can just do that right from your phone, and boom, there you go. It works. It's amazing how well it works. So yeah, good stuff. The next quick tip we have is from Joe, and I was glad that this came in because it helped me yesterday. He says, you get a receipt from somewhere like a restaurant with an offer for a free chicken sandwich, or you take a survey or whatever, and there's some big, long 20-digit code attached, like the proof of receipt. If you float over that with your camera, you can do it with a picture, or you can do it just with the camera. You can copy and paste text from the picture, live text, so that you don't have to type that big, long code in. And sure enough, yesterday we actually had a standby generator finally turned on at our house. We had it installed like 2 months ago, but it takes months for the town to do its inspections and all that fun stuff. But anyway, we had it turned on, and I wanted to go register it. And so there was the serial number and the model number in the catalog, and I wanted to put it in my to-do list to go register the thing, or not in the catalog, but in the paperwork that came with it. I'm like, man, I don't want to type that. And I was like, wait, Joe's tip, boom, copy. You don't even have to copy paste. You can just insert it wherever you're typing. There's that little, it looks like 2 brackets with like a big equal sign in the middle of it, right? Choose that, just like you would copy or paste. You kind of tap, you get that little option, and you can scan the text that you want, and you just tap it, and boom, it inserts it like you typed it. It's amazing. So it's now sitting in my to-do list to go and register. So it's great stuff. Thank you, Joe. You guys use that live text on the regular?
I have not. I've seen it a couple times. I need to get better at it, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was playing that. The paper you heard in the background maybe was me playing with a piece of paper. There's a database of phone numbers and such here, and
sure,
looks like I can grab them if I want.
You can grab. That's the thing. Yeah. It works. It works well. I just need to remember to do it. And I think I had done it once when it came out and promptly forgot all about it. And then, like I said, prepped Joe's thing, and hours later saw the serial number on the generator paperwork, and I was like, wait. Yeah, of course. So
something as simple as that takes some. I can imagine there's some serious math going on behind the scenes.
Let us
grab
not
it and
overlook.
go, hey, this is text. This is not, this is not a kitty cat.
Right. Yeah, no. And the fact that it's doing it on the fly, it's freaking amazing. Our phone's cameras the pictures from our phone's cameras look great. The cameras themselves aren't really the most fantastic cameras in the world, but there's a lot of smarts between the hardware and the other, the hardware capturing it and the hardware displaying it. And some of those smarts can identify letters, it turns out.
Yeah.
Cool.
And languages.
Language. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. That just blows me away what we can do. Harvey has a quick tip for us. He reminds us, and I think he learned about this on Mac Most, Gary Rosenzweig's show. We got to have Gary back on. He was a good guest. He learned about the fact that the network quality command, which is a terminal command built into current versions of macOS, and it's all lowercase except for the Q. So network quality with a capital Q will do a speed test of your internet connection. Now, there's two ways to run it that he recommends. One is -V so that you can see the results while it's happening. And then the other one is -S, which does it in series. So -V or the default, -V means verbose. And we'll put these commands in the show notes. You don't need to remember them. But -V means verbose so that you're seeing more information. But by default, network quality does a bidirectional speed test at the same time. And that can lead to misleading results over Wi-Fi, because if you're sending data in one direction, you might be clogging up the other direction and therefore not getting the fastest that you could get in either direction at once. And so that's where network quality -S comes in, because -S runs the tests in series. It downloads first and then it uploads, and so you get some more accurate results by doing it that way. That's why speedtest.com and all those, or speedtest.net, I can't remember. But that's why all those work that way. But now you can just do it from the terminal without even having to install Speedtest CLI from Homebrew. So built right into macOS. Thanks, Harvey. It's great stuff. I love it. I love it. I don't know what servers it uses. That would be an interesting geek challenge. So have you used this network quality thing, John?
Yes, and but I think, yeah, I had the same thing happen. I was like, those results aren't that great. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, there's a variety of reasons results might not be great, right? There's the certainly if it's running bidirectional or something else is running, that can influence the results. But the other thing is which server it connects to. There are times where I'll run speedtest.net here and it'll tell me I get, 500 down and 200 up or something. And it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure my gigabit connection is still a gigabit connection in both directions. And I just have to check and change the server that speedtest.net is using. And then it's like, oh yeah, here's your full speed.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't. I wonder if there's a way. I think in his email, he had something about it being, he had a script in order to pin it to the.
You're right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a way to designate the server or something too. And that's really, speaking of geek challenges, that's above my geek pig rate.
Yeah, and Brian Monroe in the chat room dug a little bit into this and said that by default, network quality runs the test against Apple's CDN. So I guess I could have guessed that Apple had a CDN. I didn't realize that. So there you go. I like it. I like it. It's good. All right, we'll put that in a link to whatever you shared in the chat there in the show notes, Brian Monroe. Thank you for that. Great stuff. John, you got a quick tip for us this week?
Yeah, I stumbled across something by accident. So open messages.
Okay.
And normally what you see is on the left are the people that you recently communicated with, and on the right is what you said to each other.
Right.
There's also a search field.
Okay.
Click in there.
Okay.
You get a whole different view. It shows people that you recently texted with, but then it has a links view, a photos view, a locations view, a documents view.
Very cool. I like it.
I didn't know you could do that. So that could be handy if you're looking for something specific.
Yeah. I also, in a similar vein, if you go into a given chat, either a group chat or an individual chat, and you hit the little info box in the upper right of that chat,
right,
it will and scroll down a little. It'll show you the photos and links that are specific to that chat. So if you know that, like, all right, listen, Pete texted me a picture of something, I want to go look that up. If I go into that, I can just go see the photos that are in that chat, which is super handy, or the links especially
Look at that.
can be super handy sometimes. Yeah. I like this.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise you're forced to go back months to the.
You're just
"Oh,
scrolling,
sent
man.
me that."
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes a while for it to load, but it's on your phone.
Well,
It's
maybe.
there.
I mean, unless you're syncing
Yeah.
with iCloud, and maybe it's on iCloud. Like,
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to archive off old pictures from your phone, because that's a thing that will fill up a phone. And
Oh, sure. Because I'm thinking back to the days of Sinuti when I used to wander around in there in the phone, attach your phone to your laptop and wander around in your phone and find all those files down deep in the chats and get rid of them. You didn't need them.
Yeah, I wonder if you can selectively do that with iMazing. I haven't even thought to try that. That would be the tool these days. I mean, Sinuti did what iMazing then came to do, right? So
Right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. So we've got, well, it's not a quick tip. It's more a we got caught, and we'll offer a little mea culpa here that we'll share from Todd. Then we'll share a little bit about our sponsors, and then we'll answer some of your questions. But we'll let Todd take it away first here.
This is ADD Todd out of Orem, Utah.
Thanks, Todd.
Tidbit of trivia. Guys, you've just been caught. I'm listening to the last 10 minutes of Monday's podcast with, I believe, Dr. Mac is how you build them. Did a refresh on my iTunes to see what was new to put on my iPod. And I've got a complete list of Mac Geek Gab. I was really tempted to download the inaugural and listen to it again. Decided not to, but hey, that's just me. Anywho, don't know what you guys did, don't know what Apple did, but you've been caught. Keep up the good work. Keep having fun. Goodbye.
Thanks, Todd. You are correct. I was going through some, we've moved to our MacGeekGab.com website. Gives us a lot more flexibility about how we do things and what we do. And over the years, Apple has lifted their limits on what the maximum number of episodes you can have in your iTunes feed, or at least what they will display. For a while, I think it was 100, then it went to 300, and now I believe the limit is 2,000, but it's possible it's higher than that, but it's at least 2,000. And so I thought, that's fine. Let's just open up, now that we have all of the shows in one feed, in one place, which was not the case at Mac Observer, because they were actually in 3 different places, and if you did subscribe to the feed that we called the MGG All feed, it was really a Frankenstein of things. Now, all of the episodes going all the way back, as Todd pointed out, to the inaugural episode, they are all in the same content management system. It's WordPress that we're using. And so I was like, why am I limiting this to 300? Let's just open the floodgates. Let's do it. And so I did that. And Todd, you noticed it, and we respect your choice not to go back and listen to the first episode. I have been listening to back episodes sporadically here. I did listen to the first one recently, and things have gotten better. I think I listened to some in like the 7s and 800s, which actually there were some really good things in those. And some of the interaction and the spark was pretty good. So we're eager to get back to some of that. But yes, it did put all the episodes in the feed. There were a few of you on Twitter that alerted us that your podcatcher started downloading some, but not all of these old episodes. We're sorry about that. I did not mean for that to happen, but I suppose it is one of those things that happens when you put more data into a database at times. But it's over. All the episodes are there. The only episodes that we're going to put into the feed from now going forward are the new ones that we create. So it should be a one and done kind of thing. So thank you for pointing that out, Todd. And thank you to everybody. Yeah, it's amazing that we're here at 927. It's awesome. I love it. And that's all thanks to you folks.
That big 1,000.
We're getting there. Yeah, I know. It's a little over a year, right? Like that's how that'll work out. I think that's how math works, and weekly shows, all that good stuff. All right. Shall we talk about our couple of sponsors here, Mr. Braun?
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, who among us doesn't love to live well, to be perfectly at ease, in comfort and in style? Our sponsor, Hunter Douglas, can help you do just that with their innovative window shade designs, gorgeous fabrics, and control systems so advanced they can be scheduled to automatically adjust to their optimal position throughout the day. You gotta visit hunterdouglas.com/MGG so you can see the way the shades diffuse harsh sunlight and cast a beautiful glow across your room. And you can also see how you can enjoy the view outside the window while protecting your privacy inside. You'll also be able to learn about the superior insulation the shades provide, keeping you warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and lowering your utility bills. And when you visit hunterdouglas.com/MGG, you can see about Hunter Douglas's PowerView technology, so your shades can be set to automatically reposition for the perfect balance of light, privacy, and insulation morning, noon, and night. Live beautifully with Hunter Douglas, enjoying greater convenience, enhanced style, and increased comfort in your home throughout the day. And right now, for a limited time, you can take advantage of generous rebate savings opportunities on select styles. Visit hunterdouglas.com/MGG for details. That's hunterdouglas.com/MGG, and our thanks to Hunter Douglas for sponsoring this episode. Next up is BBEdit 14, which brings a horde of new features, changes, and improvements with new significantly deep capabilities for developers and data scientists, but it also offers many features for everyone who works with text. BBEdit has a wide range of source code editing enhancements via built-in support for the language server protocol now, including enhanced language-specific text completions, interactive help, and code navigation. You've got to experience this to believe it. It's amazing how it can really just guide you through some stuff. This whole LSP, the language server protocol thing, what an amazing advancement and an amazing technology for BBEdit to tap into. And now with BBEdit 14's notes system, it helps us avoid the clutter of untitled text documents. You can create notes from any convenient source, your clipboard, whatever, and notes are automatically named and managed by the app. So you can get rid of all those untitled text documents. You got to go check this out. You're going to love the repeat last command. Command Y is what it is for those of us using it. It's super convenient. You're going to love it. Check it out. Go to barebones.com. Download your 30-day free trial. Check it out. Enjoy. You even get a free trial if you've done it before, because with BBEdit 14, all of that was reset. You get discounted upgrade pricing if you're an existing BBEdit customer. Go to barebones.com/store, and our thanks to Barebones and BBEdit for sponsoring this episode. All right, John, you want to take us to David? Yeah.
David says, I recently discovered something that seems the very definition of a quick tip. I found it because my problem finally frustrated me to the point that it caused me to search for an answer, and it was obvious once I knew. Excuse me. I frequently access my desktop folder in the favorites sidebar on the Finder, but recently not sure what started this, maybe with Monterey, maybe before. The desktop folder would periodically disappear. I would add it back by dragging the folder into the sidebar. It would stay for a few days or weeks, and then would disappear. It turns out that there's a setting in the Finder Preferences to accomplish this permanently. Go to Finder, Preferences, Sidebar, and check the box for the things that you want the sidebar. Maybe that box is unchecked by default with one of the newer operating systems, and that's why I never noticed that it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Yeah, I need to check that on my Mac in the office, because my desktop folder disappears from my sidebar, not as frequently as Harvey, or as David, was saying. I had Harvey on the brain from the last network, the last little quick tip. But yeah, it happens. And I've attributed it to the move, which happened long ago, to iCloud Drive, right, where your documents and desktop are synced, and for some reason it just wants to move them around in the sidebar. I don't know. But yes, I've seen this happen. So yeah, nice fix. It's good. Hopefully it does fix it for you. Any more on this, or is it time to move to Eduardo?
I got nothing.
Eduardo asks, coming from a desktop and iPad Pro setup, I'm now living with a MacBook Pro 13-inch I purchased used, and a beautiful brand new Apple Studio display. Very, very nice. I spend most of my time working at home with the MacBook connected to the studio display and the battery status as charged. And when I'm out and about, I rarely use more than 30% of the battery. It simply doesn't come down. The Mac is very efficient at power use. Yeah, for sure. To tell you the truth, he says, I've never used the charger that came with the MacBook Pro. It just plugs into the studio display, and that's that. I wonder if this intense use with it always plugged in could lead to some deterioration of the battery life expectancy. What are your thoughts on this? So it's a good question. And I think the answer to your question, the short answer is yes, eventually. I think leaving a battery plugged in all the time is not the most optimal thing for a battery. However, I don't think it's the kind of thing we need to worry about as much anymore as we used to because of the increases, improvements, I should say, in Apple's battery technology, both in terms of the hardware and the software to manage it. So I think we're okay. We're better off now than we were, 5 or 10 years ago with this, largely because Apple has built software to do these things correctly. What do you think, John?
Yeah, my MacBook Pro, I used to charge it up and then charge it down. And I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What can help, or what helps me is that how do you know the percentage that's left? And I use a program called Fruit Juice to tell me that. And I've been over 80% for like a stretch of many months. And I leave it plugged in all the time. Yeah. So, at least for me, what caused it to go down to 80% or slightly above was because I was cycling the battery all the time.
That may not be the cause of it. That's rarely the cause of it, right? Like, I mean, knowing what we know about batteries, that's not generally the thing that will cause their life to go down. Like the static charging of it in the past has been the thing that causes the life to decrease. That said, who knows, right? I mean, any use case of one isn't really enough to like the plural of anecdote. It's not data, but Apple has really managed this stuff well, and we'll put a link to in the show notes to that. Unfortunately, we won't be putting a link to Fruit Juice in the show notes. Fruit Juice has been end of life. Jeff Lynch, its chief developer, posted on Twitter last week before about this, and he has stopped development on it. I don't think you can download new copies of it anymore. And that was a piece of software that is near and dear to our hearts here. Its genesis involved discussions on this show that led Jeff to think, hey, in part, I don't want to take full credit for this, but I know that there were some Mac Geek Gab discussions that led Jeff to think, hey, maybe there's an app to remind people to do this. And as Apple's battery tech has increased or improved, I don't know why I keep wanting to say increased, then the need for a product like Fruit Juice has become less. I don't want to say it's nothing, but it has become less. You can see your battery capacity in a variety of ways. Fruit Juice isn't your battery, your overall battery health in a few ways. One of them is, I think, in System Profiler. Is that what we call System Information?
Power. I think the power section gives you some.
Okay. And I always use coconut battery to track
Dave,
it.
you just beat me to it in the show notes.
Tell us about coconut battery.
That's fine.
No.
I was going to put the link in, and I saw it was already there in the show notes. I've used coconut battery. But throughout this discussion I've had up at the bottom, the one I found this morning it's not an app, but just a link to apple.com batteries/maximizing-performance. And that not only does the MacBooks, but all Apple devices, iPhones, iPads, watches, that sort of thing. And it goes on to give additional, if you're going to store it for long term, don't store it fully charged. Don't store it fully empty. Every 6 months, go back and get it back. Store it at 50%. Every 6 months, go back to 50%. So to maximize the life of your battery. Don't put it to sleep and think you're going to store it long term either.
No, it will burn out the battery. No, yes. and that it is not good to store a battery at full charge. It is far, far worse to store a battery with no charge because I've done that, and that's the end of that battery.
Guess what?
After
Guess what meets end of life very quickly when you do that. Huh?
That's right. It will never come back if you leave it for too long that way. But one thing I like about coconut battery is it tracks your, and I think Fruit Juice did this too. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. But coconut battery will let you track your battery health over time, so you can see how it, how it has progressed. So the nice part about Fruit Juice is it did that automatically. With coconut battery, you've got to remember to run it, I believe, and tell it to go and get that data. But it'll.
I was actually looking at my iPhone a few days ago. I was looking at my iPhone. If you just go to power and then or settings, and then into the battery, and it'll tell you the history. It'll tell you that my current capability is 87%.
Yeah,
maximum. But it's also an 18-month-old battery with daily heavy usage. So
that's right. Yeah, and I think there's your data point that daily heavy usage is arguably good for a battery is just look at the iPhones and iPads, right? Because most of us do not leave those charged in full time, and we are running them down all day and charging them up at night and running them down all day and charging them up at night. And yeah, most iPhones sit well above that 80% threshold for the lion's share of their serviceable life. So
right.
Yeah.
And unless you wake up in the morning and find you didn't quite set it properly on the Qi charger, that's the beauty of MagSafe, right?
I won't use Qi next to my bed anymore unless it's MagSafe. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, I've awakened in the morning with 18% going. Yeah, seriously, come on.
Yeah, bad news. MagSafe solves that problem for sure. Yeah, so I either plug it in or I'm using MagSafe. I can't risk. I mean, most days it wouldn't matter because I'm just going to be at my desk and I can just plug it in or whatever. But if it's not one of those days and it's one of those days, well, then I want it charged. So yeah, it's good.
Well, and thinking of MagSafe, quick, cool stuff found injection.
Yeah.
There are, what are they called? The little pop sockets on the back of the iPhones don't work with Qi chargers and MagSafe and that sort of thing, except go search for a MagSafe pop socket. They magnetically come off, so you can pull off the pop socket at night and set your phone on the Qi charger, and it works great. And I actually happened to find one that was customizable for my daughter for Christmas, so she got a picture of her puppy dog with her at college on the back of her pop socket. But it's a MagSafe pop socket, and it's pretty strong. Oh, there you go. You've got one up in the share of the video. It is that's handy. I really like that. I like the pop socket. I don't know why I don't have one of those on my own phone yet, because I really like the concept to be able to take that on and off the phone and use the MagSafe to its full extent, and yet still have the convenience of a pop socket.
And they've got all kinds of permutations of this. Obviously, all the different designs that you mentioned, Pete. Plus, they've got a pop wallet with MagSafe. So you've got the pop socket and a wallet all in one that MagSafes to your phone. So you only have it when you need it. Oh, wow. I wish I'd known about these before my upcoming travels to Portland. But maybe before my upcoming travels to Greece, I'll grab one of these.
I'm pretty sure I've seen some variant of those in the various big box high-tech stores in the neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep an eye out. That's great. Very cool. Nice find. Good stuff. I love it. I love it. I don't know why I never even, we've been so gung-ho on MagSafe since the fall, which I realized was we started a year late. That's fine. We can't be on the bleeding edge of everything as much as we try. But I'm surprised that this hasn't come up yet, because that seems like a great use case for it. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's MagSafe chargers for the car that, they put on the vent, and it, you clap it to it, it charges automatically, and you can use Bluetooth to listen. And
yeah, right. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no.
I think you're talking about Lisa's using that now, right? In hers, because it doesn't have CarPlay.
Correct. It's fantastic. I love that thing in her car. It's great. Yep. All right. Paul has a question and a tip wrapped inside an enigma. I don't know. It's all kinds of stuff. Paul says, I recently had an EarPods Pro tip damaged and needed replaced. Or an AirPods Pro tip damaged and needed replaced. I knew I needed medium, but I temporarily used the large one until I got a replacement. After doing some internet searches, I resolved that I did like the silicone-ish ones from Apple and saw they were actually cheaper than ones found on Amazon. Well, shop around. You never know. It did take a week or two to come in, but from Apple, I got 4 medium-sized tips for $7.99 instead of the $10 or so on Amazon for only 2. The real problem that it solved, however, was the amount of wax that had collected in the mesh screen over the past few years. The AirPods Pro sounds so much better now. While we're on the subject, any tips or suggestions for removing wax other than the mechanical methods, toothpick or similar? Any chemicals suggested for the tips, not the AirPods? So this is a great find. And yeah, the cerumen dilemma, right, is the trick here. But I
would think rubbing alcohol, right?
So
or would it damage them?
It might be okay, but I still I think it's gonna. I mean, there are things that will dissolve earwax. Now, rubbing alcohol might be one of them, Pete, but it's never going to be sold that way because so many of the things that you would use for dissolving earwax are things you put inside your ear. And I don't think you want to have to put too much rubbing alcohol in there, although I suppose it's done with
actually you
swimmer's
can
ear.
because for swimmers here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fair. Yeah, so maybe rubbing alcohol, right? But I think that would dry it out more.
Just sharing my medical advice, by the way, seeing as I'm a doctor too now, right? Yeah, sorry,
right.
that's another show. Yeah, all right.
That was 3 weeks ago, Pete.
Yeah, right.
But I do have some experience with cleaning earwax out of earpods, and I say earpods, I should say earbuds or in-ear monitors, the ones that I wear for the show. Always get earwax in them. The ones that I wear on stage, the same thing. And there is this thing called an earwax cleaning loop. It is simply it's simply a little metal loop on a plastic handle. And it works amazingly well to just sort of scrape out and catch the little bits of earwax and remove it from things. So I would think that combined with a brush to sort of brush out the earwax might be the key. I looked on, I have a bunch of these because they come with my in-ear monitors. Every set of in-ear monitors I've ever gotten has come with one of these loops. So I looked on Amazon for a couple of things. And I found 2 things. I found this 12-piece hearing aid cleaning tool kit. And looking for things to clean hearing aids would be the path to head down. Though, to be fair, not everything that you would use to clean a hearing aid would be relevant to cleaning just AirPods or even just to your any kind of earphones or earbuds. The other thing that I found on Amazon was just a pack of brushes that have a loop on the hand, or they have a loop with a brush on the handle. Let's put it that way. So you could sort of use the loop to get the big pieces out and then use the brush to sort of brush and clean the rest of it. That's how I would clean these things. But to each ear. I'm so used to these ear loops that it's hard for me to think of cleaning with anything else. I don't know. But I don't know that I would use a chemical. It's kind of, it feels like we might head down the path of damaging things, but I don't know. Who knows? Any more thoughts on that, guys? Pete, nope. John?
Yeah. Again, I have used Q-tips soaked in rubbing alcohol to clean.
Okay.
Mine. But I have never. But depending how much is in there, I mean, I would think of actually trying to submerge it in rubbing alcohol. But knowing that I was probably, it could damage it beyond repair, in which case I'd have to buy new.
Well, and that is the nice part about having removable tips is you could experiment by just putting the tips in rubbing alcohol. Let them dry completely before you put them back on your AirPods. But the good news is, rubbing alcohol has the benefit of drying very quickly, given its high alcohol content. But yeah, So and even then maybe use the brush to brush the screen of the AirPod Pro itself while the tip is off.
Much better. I would think you had to have a brush than a Q-tip. I think it'd be much more effective.
Someone in the Warren in the chat room says, of course, rubbing alcohol cleans everything. So fair. Yeah. And then BSD Junkie says, I've heard of using museum wax on AirPods to clean the wax out of them, but do not press excessively hard or you will fill them with museum wax. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. All right. You want to take us to Tim, John?
Sure. Tim says, I have a ton of photos, over 200,000, and videos, over 6,000, in my photo library. I have that library on an external disk, following the perennial advice to save money on Apple's expensive internal SSD. But the delays in processing photos drives me nuts and is a main driver in my desire for what would probably be an otherwise unnecessary upgrade from an M1 to an M1 Pro or even an M1 Max. I understand that part of the speed of the Max is the continuing improvement in the speed of the internal SSD. And am I correct in thinking that the external storage, a Samsung T5 portable SSD, is a non-trivial contributor to the delays? Thanks. Well, first off, I mean, internal storage is always going to be faster, though the ports that we have now go pretty fast, but I think it introduces another level of connection level rather than being, directly plugged into the PC or Mac. One thought to improve something. Now, I haven't actually tried this, but, can't hurt. Caches always fix things and make them better, right?
Sure.
There actually is a caching feature in macOS. System preferences, sharing, content caching. I don't know, cache your content to see if that improves the performance. I did look this drive up, and the specs... they seem fast enough, but the max throughput on this T5 seems to be about 500 megabytes a second.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's not slow.
No, it's not. I'm guessing it's a 5 gigabit per second USB drive, which is why you'd see those speeds. Mm-hmm. I would rarely... I see this a different way. Rarely have I found for photos that the management of it is maxing out the top speed of whatever storage I've put it on. Right? It's more that it's lots of relatively small files and indexes that are being accessed back and forth, and so the lower latency of an SSD usually is the thing that matters most. And whether or not that's a direct connected SSD or a an internal one, there might be a couple of milliseconds maybe or fractions of a millisecond, but I don't know that there's all that much overhead, especially with Thunderbolt. But I think this one's USB, so there might be a little USB overhead, but it's not terrible. I would look at CPU usage and see when this is happening, is your CPU pegged? Because if it is, then it's not disk speed that's slowing you down, right? Or disk access, and that's perhaps a better term, is disk access that's slowing you down. It's your CPU. And if that's the case, well, certainly then upgrading to something with a faster or perhaps, exponentially faster CPU will very likely solve this problem. And that's going to be my guess here, is that I don't think your issue is going to be solved by a faster drive. He's already on an SSD. So it's not like we're moving it's so much data back and forth that we need speed, like raw transfer speed. We just need quick access to things. And that's where the latency of an SSD would come in. I have found moving photos from a rotational drive to an SSD, be it internal or external, is all that it takes. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And your point about content caching, that's for caching things that are in iCloud and also like software updates and things like that. The idea is to have one computer on your network that you set as a content cache. And then the first time any device on the network downloads some resource from iCloud, then it stores it in that content cache so that the next person doesn't have to rely on the internet. It can just happen over the local network. Now, if he's managing his photo library and some of it isn't even on the local disk, if it's set to optimize storage and it's in the cloud, well, then content caching might help quite a bit. But otherwise, I don't think that content caching, I mean, it's for things on the internet, not just local things on your computer. That's a different kind of cache. So, and as far as I know, I mean, I'm sure Photos has some caches in it, but not not user configurable. Like if they're on, they're on. And if they're not there, well, then they're not there. So yeah, I would look at the CPU usage. That's the we always approach these things in the if I were there, what would I do next? From that perspective, and that's certainly the thing I would do next is like open up Activity Monitor. If you have iStat menus, just keep an eye on that and start doing the things that frustrate you and see what portions of your system are being maxed out. Because in Activity Monitor, you can see even the disk usage, and if it's maxing out the disk, then by all means, that's going to be it. I don't think you're going to find that. So I think it is a trivial contributor, not a non-trivial one. Would
Dave,
be my
did
guess.
it say in the email, the one thing you glossed over, but
yeah,
the big red flag to me was if he's got storage optimized and it's in the cloud, that seems to me the first and most likely.
Agreed.
But I don't recall if it said in the email.
It didn't, but that is good advice. Like if you're doing a lot of photo management, try that. Like but of course that's easier said than done. My guess is he does not have storage optimized because he's putting his photo library on a 2 terabyte external disk, right? So, but that he could store his photo library on that disk. Whether he is or not is a different question, and it's worth checking that setting in Photos. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good catch. Yep. All right, let's go to John here. Is there more on that one, John? I meant listener John. Okay, great. We will go to listener John then, who found an issue for us. He says, for the longest time, I was unable to log in to hotel and in-flight Wi-Fi networks. So after listening to episode 920, I thought my problems were solved, but that's not the case. I went to neverssl.com. That's the tip we talked about in episode 920. The nice part about NeverSSL is you always will connect to it without using HTTPS. You will only connect with HTTP. And then that means for captive portals, you won't get stuck in the certificate loop, which is great. He said, but NeverSSL did not solve my problem while attempting an in-flight nor while attempting a hotel connection. It got me nowhere. NeverSSL would never appear. The captive portal wouldn't appear. Nothing. Rebooting, emptying caches, nothing helped. At my most recent hotel stay, the problem occurred as usual. However, I could connect on my work MacBook Pro as well as my iPhone. NeverSSL did exactly what it was supposed to do there. So I did some Google Foo while tethered to my iPhone and found the solution. For several years, I have set my MacBook's Wi-Fi to point to the custom DNS for Cloudflare or OpenDNS, and this seems to have been causing the problem. When I deleted my custom DNS servers and then renewed the DHCP lease and let the DHCP server at the hotel populate my DNS, boom, the captive portal magically appeared. I was able to access the hotel's Wi-Fi, and I'm good to go. So John asks, was I misguided in setting my Wi-Fi to point to specific custom DNS servers? Should I do that only on my home Wi-Fi and leave my MacBook's Wi-Fi settings alone? And the answer is yes. Great find, by the way. Like, that's excellent sleuthing to sort this out, because it is tempting to put custom DNS in on, especially on our mobile machines. But it really, can screw things up when on guest Wi-Fi of any variety of things. But what you could do at home is set your router to use either Cloudflare or OpenDNS. And then that way, when your MacBook is at home, it'll get your router's DNS settings, and boom, you've got what you need, right? Because your router is going to go through Cloudflare or OpenDNS or whatever you choose, but your MacBook is just going to take the DNS of the active network, and you're good to go. So you'll be able to do what you need to do when you get to those hotels or airports or wherever that have captive portals. So great find, John. And yeah, I love this stuff. John Braun, thoughts?
It's funny. One of my local stores upgraded theirs because for the longest time it never asked me. It must have known my MAC address, I guess.
That's true. Yeah,
a cookie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it surprised me that they asked me to authenticate again.
Yeah, I bet they store MAC addresses so that it, if I were configuring a network with captive portal, I would have it store MAC addresses for a while so that it didn't have to do that over and over and over again. So yeah, for sure. All right. Oh yeah, and I'm guessing this is Brian Monroe in the chat room, who points out that the captive portal can cause major issues when you are trying to set up your new cable modem as well, because those use a captive portal to redirect you to the walled garden, especially with like XFinity. When you first connect to a cable modem, it's not assigned to your account most of the time. So you need to go through their captive portal and connect and do all of that. And if you have custom DNS settings, well, it's not going to work. So that's another good piece of advice there. So thank you for that. All right. Moving on to Roger. We're heading back into travel season here, and it seems like many of us are going to be able to start doing some of that. Roger points out, he says, my wife and I both own iPhone 12 Pro Maxes and are going on a river cruise on the Rhine from Amsterdam to Switzerland. We're T-Mobile users here. What should we consider about getting SIM cards for the trip? There's supposed to be Wi-Fi on our ship, but we'd like to be able to use Google Maps and Translate apps as well as have location data in photos when day tripping off the boat. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here because there's a lot of leads that have been buried in this. The first thing that I will share in no particular order is before you travel anywhere, and I would even do this for your home area, put Google Maps on your iPhone. It's free, but it's not on automatically. Apple Maps is on automatically. Put Google Maps on your iPhone and then go into the settings inside Google Maps for offline maps and download offline maps for any of the areas you're going to visit. Do this while you're on Wi-Fi, and you can thank us later because this is one of those things that can save your bacon if you are in an area with no service. Your phone still will have a GPS connection, albeit a limited one because it's not being able to use like cell triangulation or other things, but it will have a GPS connection. And you will have the map data on your device inside Google Maps because you downloaded it offline, and life will be good. So that's step one. Step two is that you are T-Mobile users. T-Mobile is known to have one of the best all-inclusive worldwide travel data options as part of many of their plans. I don't think it's part of all of them, but check to make sure that you're not just covered already with your existing data plan. As a T-Mobile user, you might be. If you're not, regardless of your carrier, my favorite place, and we'll be using it before we head to Greece later this month, is eSIMDB.com. We'll put a link in the show notes, but it's easy to remember. It's eSIMDB. Your phones support eSIMs, as do most newer iPhones, and will support it in dual SIM mode. So you can add a data SIM while still keeping your voice SIM on the phone. And eSIMDB is a great place to be able to narrow down where you're going, how long you're going to be there, what kind of data you need. It sounds like, looking at Roger's trip here is sort of the case study. He's going to be traveling between at least 2 different countries, perhaps more. My geography isn't perfect for that area of our world. But so he won't be able to get just a Swiss data plan that might not cover him when he's not in Switzerland, but he could get a European data plan that probably would cover him. So, and it'll tell you on eSIMDB which countries are covered. You get to sort and mismatch and all kinds of great stuff. It's a wonderful resource. I got to look for a way to find a way to send them money to keep them up and running, because I want them to keep up and running. It's a really good resource. So that's what I have to say about this. Anybody else have anything?
You guys may be aware, I travel sometimes.
I've heard of this, Pete.
Yeah. So, I've actually had, as you know, you and I are now both on Mint Mobile, and you can pre-buy some of your data and your minutes and that sort of thing with them overseas. And the fact that it isn't the cheapest plan out there is still made up for well over by the fact that you're saving roughly half on what the major carriers are charging
or
you.
More.
or more. Yeah.
So
with Mint Mobile. But I vaguely remembered what you said, which is you can pre-download on Wi-Fi your Google Maps. There's another app called You Need a Map.
Okay.
Available on the iOS App Store. And that you can download on Wi-Fi again your apps there, and that's also your map there, and that's also very interactive. But I think you're right. I think the thing to do is to call T-Mobile and say, "Hey, we're going to be in Germany. What are your per day rates?" And as I recall, on another major carrier, it was $10 a day overseas, as if you were at home. Yeah. And if you don't travel it became prohibitively expensive. When I was there all the time, I couldn't do that. But if you're traveling once or twice a year, that's not prohibitively expensive.
It's not for one person.
Right. I think the AT&T did, $10 a day for the first phone and $5 for the second phone.
Okay.
I think.
But even that, with the fact that we have, eSIMs in our phones, and this has gotten to be trivial to set up, you can probably get away with, $10 for the trip, as opposed to $10 a day by choosing the correct SIM.
Yes, I've never used the eSIM-DB. That looks like a really slick thing to try out.
It's one of my favorite things that we've found in the last year, as listeners will know. This is not the first time I've mentioned it on the show, but it's good stuff. So check it out.
The other thing I have is called a Pokefi, Pokefi. Yep. They come from Hong Kong. They're not cheap to start, but I essentially have Wi-Fi wherever I go. It's a cellular to Wi-Fi device, and it's $15 for 5 gigabytes. And
that's great.
I use it, and it starts getting low. I refill it, but
gives me that's $15 for 5 gigabytes, and you can use it worldwide.
Worldwide.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got to buy the device out of the gate. I assume that's a couple $100.
Yeah, I want to say it was about $160.
Okay. All right.
So it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't. There you go. Yeah, Pokefi gives you 4G speeds.
All right.
And flat rate.
Yeah, and I would when you're doing this research to try and figure out what you need while you're traveling, think about your realistic expectations of data usage, right? Because I've done it, like when Lisa and I went to Mexico, for example, we were staying at a resort, and I knew that we were staying at a resort, and we knew that the resort had Wi-Fi in most places, but perhaps not everywhere. But I also didn't want to be caught at the airport, or in between the airport and the resort, not being able to connect. It was worth it to me to spend a little bit of money to know that I could connect no matter what while we were there. So I went to eSIM-DB, and I found cheap plans. I mean, I think I got us each 3 gigs of data in Mexico for like $8 for 15 days or something like that, right? Which was great. Actually, I bought Lisa's in one way, and I did mine on GigSky because I had some GigSky credits. But we figured it out, and it was fine. I think we each used. We were there for 7 days. We each used far less than 1 gigabyte of data, and so think about what you're going to be doing, where you're going to be going, how often you're going to be on Wi-Fi, and don't you don't want to be caught short, but you also don't want to get home and find that you used, 800 megs of a 3 gig data plan or of an 8 gig or 10 gig data plan. Like when my daughter went to Italy for like 6 weeks, I think we bought her a 30 gig data plan that was good for 60 days or something. And I think she used maybe 10 of it, but
Right.
So think about it before you travel. Perhaps more importantly, think about it after each trip you take, and look and learn what you use when you travel so that you can be better predictive in the future. I don't know.
And things that you can do to save on that too, to get a lower data plan, is go to the low power mode. So when you take a photo, it doesn't automatically upload that photo to the cloud and eat up megabytes.
And low data mode is really the key.
Even better. Put yourself in a low data mode.
Yep.
But your phone calls and audio streaming is virtually nothing. I mean, it's so low, and you use the phone.
Yeah.
On data. Using a phone call is, Wi-Fi calling is nothing.
Well, yeah. Make sure you're doing Wi-Fi calling or WhatsApp or Skype or FaceTime.
Yeah.
Is the safe way to make sure you're doing that and not incurring charges on your roaming phone.
And one last quick follow-up to many months ago, I think I mentioned it. I was in Alaska and the Mint Mobile did not work. So I'm able to use the Pokey-Fi there and act as if I'm on the network. I never leave the network. I had called Mint Mobile and asked them about it. Or maybe I texted back. I think that's how they do their support. They said, we're not available in Alaska and Hawaii. Not true. They're not available in Alaska.
Oh.
They do work.
But they do work in Hawaii?
In Hawaii, throughout Hawaii, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
And they use the towers of another major carrier that ends in mobile, apparently. So
they use T-Mobile's towers. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's I feel like a fool for not having switched to Mint Mobile years before I finally did. I mean, they were sponsors of the show, and I had them on a spare phone and never switched the family. And then finally I did, and it was like, oh wow, I'm saving like $2,000 a year. It's like, I feel so stupid.
How crazy is it? How much money that you save by going to them?
Let's jump to some cool stuff found here, shall we? The first thing I want to share is from StatsDesk on Twitter, alerting us to the fact that Synology DSM, so this is the software for your disk station, DSM 7.1 solves a critical bug in a security bug in Netatalk, which is the engine that's used for AFP transfers. Now, most of us are connecting to our disk stations on our local networks with SMB, but you don't want to leave that hole open. To my knowledge, this is not yet fixed in Synology DSM 7. But we are recommending here wholeheartedly to upgrade to 7.1, not just for this reason. It's been solid as a rock for us, running it here for weeks, and so if you haven't yet upgraded to 7.1, let this be the catalyst. I think you're going to be in good shape with that. And speaking of Synology, next episode, MGG 928. Is a Synology Geek Gab. We got Jeff Gamet to come on with us here, and you're going to love it. We dug deep into several aspects of disk station. So whether you're a disk station owner or not, make sure you listen to 928. That's coming up next week on the 16th.
Yeah, it's an expensive show if you're not.
That's true. The other thing, John, you and me, we recently got to look at the Samsung T7 Shield, the portable SSD from the folks at Samsung. And for those watching the video, I think, John, you have one at your desk or not. Do you? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you're watching the video, you can see it. But it's the Samsung T7 Shield. It is a portable SSD. It is, let's see, it's rubber. It's got these rubberized shock absorbers on it, and it I believe it's waterproof as well. Yep, IP65 rating for water and dust resistance. Mm-hmm. It's drop proof, super rugged, and And John will keep showing it for those of us that are watching the video, and we'll put a link in the show notes for people that have not. Yep. It comes in 2 terabyte and 1 terabyte versions. The 2 terabyte version is $239 from Samsung. You can probably find it a little bit cheaper on partners. It's a 10 gig. It's a USB 3.2 G2, which means it's 10 gig USB. And it's a PCIe NVMe drive, so that means it can actually take advantage of all of those speeds. And John, you gave it a test, and you were getting 900 plus megabytes per second.
Yeah, it came formatted as ExFAT, and I benchmarked it then.
Okay.
And then I reformatted it and as APFS because I figure it would be better.
Yeah.
Now within 10, it was a little slower actually on APFS.
Not surprising. Yeah.
But still like 900 megabytes a second, which to me that's close to the advertised speed.
That's as fast as you're going to get. That's right. Yeah. That's great. Sorry, say again which machine you used to test that?
MacBook Pro.
An Intel MacBook Pro, 16-inch, right?
Correct.
Got it. Cool. All right. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, go check it out. The next thing, I went to this. I say I went. I did a virtual event called TechFluence, and I learned about this device called the WOWCube. It's like and this is how its genesis, or how it came to be. One of the engineers, his son, said to him, "Why can't we have a Rubik's Cube with screens on it?" And instead of being a typical instead of saying what I would say, which would be like, well, that'd be way too complex to design, the guy said, yeah, you know what? Let's try this. And he made it. I got to see these things like they were being used. So the idea is it is 8 cubes that are connected together magnetically. Each corner of this thing, so every cube is a corner, it has 3 screens on it. You're going to want to go to wowcube.com to check this out or watch the MGG video to see how this thing works. But every corner piece is its own standalone computer with 3 screens. They have a bunch of magnets in there to connect things together, and you can use it like a Rubik's Cube. There is a game you can load on there that, sets the colors right, and then you twist it around until that you get them all the way you want them. But there's also games like the guy that was playing this. Let's see if the video will show up here on the screen. But if you're watching the video, you're definitely going to want to go to WowCube and check this out. But there was one game where the guy had like a rat in a maze kind of thing, and he had to keep twisting the cube around to give the rat a way out of its current square. Right. And so it was this constant like adjustments and tweaking and this very tactile thing because you're spinning this cube around. I think it's going to be like $250. They're in pre-orders now. It can be this interactive thing. It can be a weather station. It can be like a lava lamp style thing. They've built this charging brick, or it's really not a brick. It's a charging stand that it's a flat base with like 2 prongs that stick up from it. And the prongs go in between these like fins go in between the cubes and charge everything all at once. But it can be on your desk, on your bedside table. There's like your clock or all the stuff. It's got sound in it, and like it looks very cool. But it exists. Like I know it's in pre-orders, but this is not a Kickstarter thing. This is I've seen people holding them and using them. Like they just need to take pre-orders so they can go make more of them. But this looks like a cool thing. The WOWCube. So, deserving of its name. I like it. Thoughts on that, or you want to take us to Lawyer Jeff, Mr. John F. Braun?
Yeah, it looks really cool.
It does cool, right?
Jeff says, want to play with the full-featured classic 68K Mac in your browser? You can try it out at macos8.app, HTTPS on the web, macos8.app, and system7.app.
Amazing. I love it. That's awesome.
And I went there, and the first thing I did was play the games that were on the machines.
They had a bunch of Ambrosia games on there, and And so I turned on Escape Velocity, and as soon as the theme music started playing, Hector went nuts because she lived in that office when those games were being made, which is pretty cool. Yeah, she has interesting. Hector is our African gray parrot whose first owners were Ambrosia Software, and she lived in the office with them, so she knows all the sounds from all those games, and they come out sometimes. And the first time any of those sounds came out, I hadn't played those games in 20 years. It's like, whoa, that brings me right back. So,
well, I also remember Escape Velocity. If you played it in free mode for too long, a ship named Hector would come and kill you.
That's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to go back and play it. All right. Yeah. Yeah. This is fun. Yeah. It's free. macOS 8.app, System7.app. We've got links in the show notes. The next thing that I found is from Scosche. We were talking last week, I believe, about battery jump starter kits to have in your car. And they've got their new PowerUp 600 torch, which is a battery jump starter flashlight all-in-one thing, and it's pretty compact. It's basically the size of a flashlight. You can charge your phone with it, you can jumpstart your car with it, and you can even use the flashlight as a flashlight, which is amazing. So pretty cool thing to keep in your car. It's $140, at least from Scosche. And of course, you might be able to find it less expensively elsewhere, but I figured that was a good one to mention given the timing of everything. So I like these things. It's good. It's good to have something like that in your car. Do you have one of those in your car? You weren't part of the discussion, Pete.
I don't, but I do remember hearing the show, and part of that discussion was it Scosche or Scosche, and we actually used both. And in the aviation, the term was the weather's really Scosche today. It's
interesting.
Low, it's tiny, it's small. Why? Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there, but I think it's the Japanese word for small or minimal.
Oh,
very little. But it's both Scosche and Scosche.
That is not where their name comes from. Believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Because I noticed that it was a small device. So I went, okay.
Yeah, I have the story for their name buried somewhere in my email here because they heard that discussion and sent us a note.
Oh, cool.
And I'm looking to see, I believe.
Because we would always say, and I never knew where it came from, but until I got
so
over to Japan, it was also, Scosche, meaning it's little.
It is pronounced Scosche. The company was founded by Roger and Scotia, Scotia, Scosche, Alvis, in 1980, and is still a family-owned and operated company. So it was named after Roger, I'm assuming his wife, but I won't make that assumption. So it was named after Scotia's nickname, which is Scosche. So
which is a proud Scottish.
Exactly. Origin. Yeah, there you go. Yep. So
to quote Wayne Campbell, it wasn't Wayne Campbell who said. No, I can't think of the actor's name. Don't get old.
John, take us to Dan, please.
Yeah, do it. Bye.
Save us. Uh-oh. John's super muted.
There we go.
Okay, there he is.
No, I was muted. Now I'm unmuted. All right, Dan says, I've started to get an Apple HomeKit recently and found something quite cool. I've already bought some products from this range, and therefore I'm confident to recommend it. HomeKit-compatible gear comes with quite a hefty price tag, but IKEA has provided a low-cost solution. They sell a range of smart home equipment called Tradfri. And this all communicates with the Tradfri hub. Huh?
Another thing we will mispronounce, certainly. I'm sure they have their own, probably Tradfri or something like that. But yes, Tradfri. So keep going. Sorry. Yeah.
So you got to get a hub, and then you get a free app.
Okay.
The great thing is that the Tradfri hub can present itself to the Apple HomeKit environment together with all the accessories you've installed: light bulbs, switches, dimmers, controllers, LED strips, etc.
Huh.
From then on, you can use the individual accessories in the Apple HomeKit app, or the Home app, right? Without touching the IKEA app. For example, in the UK, you can pick up a bulb with a switch for £10, which is a real bargain, and the other prices are equally good value.
Interesting.
I don't believe it's Matter compatible, but at this price, I'm willing to sacrifice that.
Cool.
So,
Dave, you got it. It's Tradfri, and it's
Did I get it
Swedish
right?
word for it's
Wow.
the Swedish word for wireless.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Tradfri. I'm still mispronouncing it, but you know.
Yeah, I think
there
you
was
didn't
also
roll your R, sir. Tradfri.
Fun. All right. Cool. I like it. Let's see. We've got. We're right out of time. There's a quick one, at least one that I want to mention here, and that is from Patrick. Patrick says, and I'm sure I will bring it up here. We were talking earlier in the show about cleaning your AirPods Pro tips, and Patrick suggests for cleaning your iPhone, he says, I found a DenTek kit in my drawer the other day, which is a toothpick kit, believe it or not, a DenTek flosser. And he says this is perfect for cleaning the lint out of your iPhone. So we'll put a link to those in the show notes. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. He's right. It's this weird, I wish I could get a picture of it up on the screen for anybody watching, but you'll find it at the link. It's like a finned tip. So it's not just like a plastic toothpick. It's got some bristles on it. Maybe that's the right way to describe it, which will just grab the dust and yank it out of your power port on your lightning port on your iPhone. So it's good stuff.
Don't store your iPhone in your navel.
I have trouble storing mine in my navel. It's not big enough anymore. Yeah, that's why I got the 13 mini though, Pete, was so that I can fit it in my navel. Right, that's why you got yours too, right, John? We got to be able to store our iPhones in our navels. Keeps our pockets free. Yeah, it's amazing. All right, folks. What's that?
Don't store your iPhone in your navel. There's your show title.
That's actually not a bad show title. I mean, it's terrible, but it's what was the other one I was going to use? The Cerumen Dilemma. What we said earlier in the show. I don't know which is worse, to be honest. Yeah. It's going to be a toss-up.
Getting punchy, Dave.
What's that? What's that, Pete?
We're getting punchy.
We're getting punchy. Yeah. We don't want to talk about the other things that I saw at that TechFluence show. So we gotta pull the what was it they used to do on the Gong Show? They gave us the hook, right? They would literally like put the hook out on stage. Gong. Well, there was the gong, but didn't they? I
guess they'd hook you if people wouldn't leave.
Yeah, if they wouldn't leave after being gonged, they would hook you, right? Yeah.
Chuck Berry, right? Chuck Ferris,
who. He alleges that he was a undercover CIA operative the whole time, right? The Gong Show guy? Yeah. There's a whole movie about this. Oh, it's fascinating. I don't, if this conspiracy is false, I don't want to know that it's false. I love thinking of, I think you're right. Chuck Ferris, right? Yeah. Chuck Ferris.
Can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I can pull up Chuck Ferris out of
Chuck Barris. B-A-R-R-I-S.
Barry and Ferris.
Yeah.
Close. All right.
He says he was a hitman, right? For the CIA. I don't know. We'll put that link in the show notes too, because that's clearly the most important thing we talked about during the episode here today. So.
And Gene the Dancing Machine.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And I remember watching that one episode where every act that came on sang Feelings.
That's wow.
Wow,
that brings
live.
me back. Yeah. I don't know if I saw that live or a rerun, but I as soon as you said it, it was like, oh yeah, what a disaster that was. I probably did see it live. Yeah. All right.
Which means we admit to watching that.
Oh no, we absolutely admit to watching it. Yeah, we're not proud people here. It's just how it is. Yeah. I don't know why audio is stuttering all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with my computer. It got very upset with me as I started doing things, but that's okay. That's why it's telling me we're finished, and it's correct. John, you have anything to share with them before we get out of here? Any words of wisdom or things that places you want them to find us or anything like that? Where can they find you if not in Discord?
On Twitter, John F. Braun is me. He's Dave Hamilton. He's Pilot Pete, and the podcast is Geek Gab.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Find us on Twitter.
Find us on Twitter. Find us on Discord. MacGeekGab.com/Discord. John will be there someday. I swear. It's going to happen.
I say that the
All right.
Stuff on my phone.
You'll participate someday, maybe. People are salivating to hear from you. Maybe because they're so eager to hear from you, could you share one final piece of advice with everyone, John? Maybe?
Of course. And that advice would be, don't get caught.
Great advice.
Made up.